Bands, a small group of musicians who gathered to play music together. You probably heard a couple of songs from different bands as a kid. Either it was through the radio or a music video channel like MTV, or your dad just one day showed you a song from one of his old CD collections, and most of the time it's gonna be new metal. Nowadays we become very curious on these different types of bands, and we have listened to so many from the past few years. From digging into each genre, shoegaze, new metal, alternative rock, anything that is rock related, anything that makes up a band, we listen to it. Some bands may be the most talked about band in the world, or a band that's just so unknown that you're the biggest fan. But something I've had an itch on my head for a while about bands and fame, this is one band that has a special case according to myself. It's so special that they're so popular that they're not even talked about enough. And that, my friends, is the band known as Queens of the Stone Age. Queens of the Stone Age. You may or may not have heard about this band. You may have heard some of their hits such as No One Knows, Go With The Flow, Song for the Dead, You Think I Ain't Worth a Dollar But I Feel Like a Millionaire, First to Give... the entirety of Songs for the Dead. Just the entire album, basically. Queens of the Stone Age was formed by the man himself, Joshua Homme, a recognized musician who has worked with many other bands that you may have known, such as Ween, Foo Fighters, Arctic Monkeys, in which they co-produced the third album, Humbug. Now, the question remains, is this Josh's first band? No, actually it's not. Before there was a Queens of the Stone Age, there was Caius, which is well known to be the pioneer of the genre that made Queens of the Stone Age's sound. Caius involved the band members Josh himself, John Garcia, Brant Bjork, Chris Cockrell, and Nick Ollery. The genre Caius pioneered is stoner rock and desert rock, stoner being the psychedelic, fuzzy, heavy sound, while desert is the subgenre of stoner with origins coming from Palm Desert or Southern California, where Caius originates from. Caius went on for 9 years before the breakup in the summer of 1995. Josh then moved on to another music project he had been working on, and you may know it already as Queens of the Stone Age. The project started out as the name Gamma Ray, with an EP released in 1996. The name had to be changed due to the fact that there was already a German power metal band that has the same name. Then after, most of the songs on the EP were re-released in an EP called Caius/Queens of the Stone Age. Josh Homme then went back to Palm Desert to record and release the self-titled debut album of Queens of the Stone Age, Queens of the Stone Age, with Nick Ollery joining as the bassist of the band after the release. Okay, here's a little controversial opinion for anybody who's a Queens of the Stone Age fan. Self-titled is the worst album. Listen, it's just not as good as all the other albums. And yes, it is worse than Villains. Villains! I find Villains way better than Self-Titled. I will stand on that hill. Despite being the debut album of Queens of the Stone Age, it had very, very similar sound to the old band Caius. Thus, after came Rated R, the second album of Queens of the Stone Age. Now this album, it was a bigger hit, much bigger than the first album. It was actually about to be pulled out of stores because it had a song called Feel Good Hit of the Summer, which the lyrics were just about drugs, but literally drugs. It's just the same drugs listed, repeated over and over and over again. I don't know, but it's a fire song. Now again, this album didn't really hit the mainstream audience just yet, but then that will be the work of the next album, Songs for the Deaf. Holy crap, we're finally here. Oh my god. Songs for the Deaf was released in 2002, involving many songs changing the main vocalists from Josh to Nick and Mark. And this was the one. The album projected Queens of the Stone Age to the mainstream, having music videos of their own, playing on the MTV and the radio. What made this album more recognized is the fact that Dave Grohl, the Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, is the drummer for this album. Around that time, Foo Fighters was already a big band and already hit the mainstream audience, so people were very familiar with Dave Grohl, and helped Queens of the Stone Age reach the big leagues. Okay, let's just speed run through most of these albums, so yeah, here we go. Lullabies to Paralyzed was released in 2005, it was a really good album, it had hits like In My Head and Little Sister. Era Vulgaris was released in 2007, it has some hits such as 3s and 7s and I Wanna Make It With You. And 2009, Them Cuckoo Vultures, a supergroup involving Josh Homme, Dave Grohl, and John Paul from Led Zeppelin, all came together to release the first album of Them Cuckoo Vultures. First and only. But then, Josh died. But he came back to life. Josh at the time of 2011 has been dealing with health issues with his knee, which involved a surgery in which his own heart stopped beating and then started up again. So, Josh died at that moment, and he feels like he's now lost. Josh after that went into a deep depression for months, even considering giving up on his music career. After many difficult past months trying to recover, Josh came back up and wanted to finish their next record, Like Clockwork. The recording of this album felt like a journey, involving Josh trying to recover, many band disagreements, band breakups. It was a rough recording session for the band. And thankfully, when the album came out in 2013, it was a success, reaching top 1 in the US chart, being their first #1 album in the charts. The album itself goes through the struggles of Josh Homme after the surgery and dying during it. With the success of the new album and the new record deal with Matador Records, Queens of Stone Age went on to release 2 more albums from the past decade from 2013 to 2023, with the albums such as Villains and In Times New Roman. And again, Villains is better than Self-Titled. I don't care what you say. Villains has always been good. I don't care what you say. It is not the worst. It is such a good album. So, the discography is huge. Having 8 studio albums, many side projects, and collaborations, Queens of Stone Age is definitely a big band and a big hit. But that leads us back to the question, why aren't they very talked about? Now, despite the many accomplishments and recognition that Queens of Stone Age has received for the past 2 decades, people have noticed how much Queens of Stone Age isn't as talked about as many other bands in the rock scene. How does such a band like Queens of Stone Age never get its proper praise like the Foo Fighters, Deftones, Metallica, whatever mainstream band that is currently famous right now? Especially having the fame tied next to Queens of Stone Age. One of the main reasons I have found is the sound. Bands throughout the past decades have experimented with the sound at least once, and it never really works, to be honest. Going off track with what they're recognized by and trying to make something new and different really doesn't work for big bands that go with the same sound as everyone else. They don't find success in experimenting with their artistry and trying to expand it, so they have to stick to what they're good at, that they're only good at. Queens of Stone Age says, "Dad, let's just keep going." Every new album of Queens of Stone Age feels like a new package, a new project that has a different sound to it. Sure, it's the same stoner rock band we've been hearing, but it just feels like an experimentation for every album that stems from Josh's artistry, and wanting to become something better for himself and the band. Josh does not care that they're not getting as much recognition, that like streams or sales or whatever it is. He cares about the art of music. Josh is doing what he and the band is pleased to do and how they like to express themselves. Going the same path as many other rock bands and their similar and plain sound is an option. And Josh chose to get off that path and go on his own. And I must say, it was the best damn choice he's ever made. Wow. What a rant. My love for this band will most certainly never leave my heart. The uniqueness of this band and its many surprises it feeds us has me super enthusiastic about this band, and I just can't wait for what else Josh and the gang has planned for the future. If the band ever retired one day, I wouldn't mind. There's already enough done from this band that has left an impact on so many people, showing that you don't need to have the same sound as everybody else to be famous and proud of yourself. You too can do something different than anybody else, and it never just has to be music. Music is art, but the concept of art goes beyond what we see. And Queens of the Stone Age has shown me that it can go beyond the art of music. And thus, the question is finally answered. Thanks for watching.